Robert Condie came to Australia from Scotland with his family on the ship Diana in 1849 and settled on a farm on the Shoalhaven at a place called Long Reach, now called Bangalee. The property was named Belfields and was eventually purchased by Shoalhaven City Council in the 1970s. There are numerous Condie relics still to be seen, including introduced trees and fencing. A cemetery on the reserve contains the remains of 11 family members. In spring, one of the first birds you will become aware of at Bangalee is the wonga pigeon, which you will hear rather than see. They tend to be shy and fly off when they become aware of your presence. Wongas spend a lot of time on the ground foraging for food, such as seeds, fallen fruit and berries. The brown pigeon, or cuckoo dove, is less easily seen in the trees due to its colour, though it is probably as common or more common than the wonga. In its food and habits, it is similar to the wonga, though its call is not as persistent or penetrating. Probably more at home in the tropics and subtropics is the white-headed pigeon. 60 years ago they were quite uncommon south of Port Hacking in Sydney. They seem to be becoming increasingly common now in Shoalhaven region, probably because they are being encouraged by humans providing food. They take seeds as well as small fruit and berries. Like most of the other pigeons and doves, their nest is a very scanty platform of twigs, on which is balanced a single egg, rarely two. It is remarkable that pigeons and doves still manage to raise young successfully, given that many eggs fall to the ground during windy conditions. The common bronzewing, or sometimes misnamed brush bronzewing, is a nomad, but may be found all over Australia except in the dry interior. Its diet is principally seeds, which it finds on the ground. Bangalee seems to be a very suitable habitat for whipbirds. They are very common. Often, though, they are difficult to see because they seem to be constantly on the move, foraging for insects in the tangled undergrowth. The distinctive whip-crack call is usually made by the male and is often followed by two chip-chip notes, which are usually a response by the female, at least in the breeding season. Occasionally, though, the male will also utter the two chip-chip notes. Satin bowerbirds do occur in the reserve, but don't seem to be very common. There is usually a bower or the remains of one near the picnic area behind the toilets. If you sit very still and quiet about 20 feet away, they tolerate your presence, and their constant decorating and painting and adjusting the display bower can be very entertaining. Occasionally, the male might be visited by a female, or immature males, which are green like the female. Other mature males may raid a rival's bower for baubles, or to trash the site, but quickly retreat if the owner turns up. Mating occurs within the bower and lasts only about 2 seconds. Food consists of small fruit and berries and a significant amount of leafy matter. If you are extremely lucky, you may get to see a golden whistler. They are not common, but can be found in a variety of habitats, from thick scrub to open forest. They also have a wide dietary range, from insects to seeds and berries. They build a cup-shaped nest in the fork of a branch, about 4 metres from the ground. The eggs are white and speckled with brown on the larger end. Breeding season is usually August-September. A very common insectivorous bird at Bangalee is the grey shrike thrush. It has a very melodious call and can become very tame. If you sit still and quiet, they will readily approach within a yard or so. Their cup-shaped nest of strips of bark, rootlets and leaves can be within a couple of metres of the ground in a tree fork. The 3 or 4 eggs are white or cream with olive markings, chiefly at the larger end. Breeding season is primarily between August and December. Everybody's favourite is probably the constantly restless superb blue fairy wren. Males do not assume their adult plumage until they are about 3 years old. Immature males develop a bluish tinge in their tail, which helps distinguish them from the female. Both sexes are very promiscuous. Their nest is a fairly bulky, dome-shaped structure with a side entrance, usually quite close to the ground. It is composed of grass, bark fibres, rootlets and cobwebs, and lined with soft feathers, hair or similar materials. 3 or 4 pinkish eggs with reddish-brown markings are laid. The breeding season may extend from the end of July to February. There are about 14 species of fairy wrens throughout Australia. The variegated wren also occurs at Bangalee, but they are not so common. They have a similar nest and eggs to the superb blue. Another favourite is the yellow robin, mostly seen along the reserve tracks. Nests are a very neat cup of fine materials, carefully camouflaged with lichen, bark strips or other scraps, so that they almost disappear against the background. Up to 3 apple green or pale olive eggs may be laid from the end of July to January. If you are quiet and still, yellow robins will often drop suddenly to the ground quite near you to retrieve a grub or an insect before returning to a perch on the vertical side of a nearby tree. Though lyrebirds do occur on the reserve, you are most likely to see them along the road leading to the reserve, or up on the sandstone slopes to the north, well above the developed picnic area. Listening to their calls can sometimes provide a clue to some of the other birds that live in the area, provided you are an expert on bird call identification. A very bulky nest of sticks, sometimes domed with a side entrance, is built and lined with soft materials. It may be in a cave, on a secure ledge, wedged into a wide cliff face crevice, or perched high on a tree fern or bird nest fern. Only 1 egg is laid. The chick is covered with sooty grey down and fed by the female until it leaves the nest in about September. The male doesn't visit the nest and may not even know where it is. Male lyrebirds essentially perform for other males rather than females, presumably to establish rank through the versatility and quality of their performance. Females don't necessarily visit the male's arena, though they must have some means of determining the male's rank and suitability as a partner. The grey fantail is a very restless flycatcher, which will perform its aerobatic insect collection seemingly oblivious to your presence. They are common on the reserve, and though they may nest in relatively open areas, the tiny wine goblet-shaped nest is not easy to spot. It is composed of fine grasses, fine rootlets, generously bound with spiderweb, and anchored on a thin horizontal branch within a couple of metres of the ground. 2 to 4 buff-coloured eggs are laid. Breeding season is from September to January. The rufous fantail is a migrant from the north and arrives in New South Wales during October. It departs in February or March. It tends to forage on the ground amongst the leaf litter rather than on the wing. In other respects, though, it is similar to the grey fantail, builds a similar nest, and has similar eggs, though they may exhibit lavender markings at the larger end. The strikingly marked bass-eared thrush can often be seen on the verges of the forest, where leaf litter accumulates on the grass. They are easily recognised at a distance by the very distinctive habit of running a short distance and then freezing to watch or listen for insects. They often stand stock still for up to half a minute, their plumage providing excellent camouflage, making them very inconspicuous. They make a bowl-shaped nest, usually on the ground at the base of a tree or stump. Olive-backed orioles are far more often heard than seen. They spend most of their time foraging in the treetops, so you usually only see a dark silhouette if you see them at all. Orioles are quite common on the fringes of suburbia, where there are reasonable tracts of remnant forest. Their food consists of insects, berries, and other small fruit. They build a cup-shaped nest of bark strips, interwoven with grasses, and often decorated with lichen and spiderweb. The nest is usually at the end of a slender branch amongst the leaves and can be difficult to spot. 3 or 4 cream-coloured eggs, decorated with dark brown and slate markings at the larger end. Breeding occurs from September to January. Lewin honeyeaters are probably the commonest of the honeyeater tribe at Bangalee. It is not an area blessed with lots of flowers, but there are plenty of insects. The rapid, long drawn-out staccato chittering call is usually what alerts you to the honeyeater's presence. Their nests are a well-made cup structure composed of bark strips, leaves, and decorated with moss, lichen, and spiderweb cases, often bound together with spiderweb and lined with soft grasses. The nest is fixed by the edge to a thin horizontal branch in thick foliage up to 8 metres from the ground. 2 or 3 whitish eggs, well spotted and blotched with reddish brown and purple, are laid. The breeding season is September to January. Scarlet honeyeaters occur only on the coastal fringes from Cairns to Melbourne. They are only sedentary in the north. They are erratic migrants to the south, and though they have been recorded at Bangalee, you will be pretty lucky to see one. Like most honey eaters, they tend to be nomadic, travelling to find nectar-bearing flowers. Other honey eaters that may be seen include the yellow-faced, the New Holland, and the eastern spinebill. Extremely territorial, the little wattlebird is one of the bullies of the bird world. It will ruthlessly drive out any other bird smaller than itself, and not just potential competitors like other honey eaters, but also seed eaters like finches. Wattlebirds are also major insect eaters. They are generally wary, though, of attacking parrots. Rainbow lorikeets, though, are a competitor for nectar and sometimes destroy the flowers themselves. Little wattlebirds commence their territorial proclamations before dawn and will persist with their raucous calls till well after sunup. Wattlebird nests are cup-shaped structures composed of small twigs, loosely woven together and lined with soft grasses, often within a metre or so of the ground in dense foliage. Up to 3 eggs are laid, a dirty pink colour, with reddish brown and purplish spots and blotches, mostly on the larger end. Finches in Australia appear to be in decline, no doubt due to the loss of many native grasses. The commonest seems to be the zebra finch and the double bar, both of which should be found locally. However, the only one commonly found in Shoalhaven is the red-browed finch. Small parties can often be seen at Bangalee, but they are also nomadic, which means they can be absent for lengthy periods. They generally frequent the fringes of the forested areas where they can find the tiny grass seeds which are their primary diet. They can learn to tolerate observers, provided you don't make any sudden moves or loud noises. A typical family group in the spring is 2 parents and 3 or 4 young. The young do not get their red feathers until they are fully matured. The nest is a bulky, dome-shaped or squat bottle-shaped structure with a side entrance composed of dried grasses and twigs and lined with downy feathers and other soft materials. It is usually well hidden in thick vegetation or tangled vines, often within a metre of the ground. Often in company with lyrebirds is the white-browed scrub wren, scouting around the disturbed leaf litter, looking for grubs and insects missed by the lyrebird. They are, of course, well able to forage alone, but big companions bring new opportunities. They make a dome-shaped nest of bark, leaves and fine grasses with a side entrance. The nest may be very close to the ground, in the thick undergrowth and debris. Generally 3 white or greyish eggs are laid. The breeding season is July to December. They are reasonably common at Bangalee. Australia has about 70 parrots and cockatoos, of which 9 or 10 may be seen in the Shoalhaven region, depending on available food, which is often seasonal. Some species appear to be less common now than in the past, like this eastern rosella. At one time they were considered a pest in orchards, as they are not averse to small fruits, which can comprise part of their diet. Others, like the crimson rosella, appear to be doing particularly well. Probably a major factor is the availability of nesting hollows. As areas become increasingly urbanised, suitable mature trees with hollows become scarcer. Parrots are fairly diverse in their diet, though the majority are primarily seed eaters, and some eat a lot of vegetable matter, including flowers, unopened buds and berries. A few even come to specialise as nectar feeders. The nectar feeders develop a brush-like tongue and would starve if only grain was available. Soft, juicy fruit is also acceptable. Most parrots nest in tree hollows and hollow dead branches. They prefer holes which are only big enough to squeeze into, but not big enough for predators like piranhas and kookaburras to gain entry. Ground parrots and night parrots nest on the ground, and the hooded, golden-shouldered and paradise parrot nest in termite mounds. Those species, of course, do not occur here. Parrot eggs are white, and 2 to 6 are laid according to the species. To get to Bangalee, travel 9.6 kilometres from the Shoalhaven Bridge, along Illaroo Road, through Nowra North, and just past Tapatali there is a sign on the right which directs you to Bangalee. This is Kaluna Drive. Turn left here and proceed along Kaluna Drive. It is about 3.1 kilometres to Bangalee. Watersley Creek Bridge is about 2.2 kilometres along. Then there is a nasty road crest with a sudden swerve to the right, about 400 metres past the bridge. The entrance to Bangalee Reserve is on the left-hand side, about another 500 metres from the nasty crest. A short dirt track leads into the parking area. Bangalee has a picnic area, toilets and tracks which make walking easy.